So, what is Combustion? Combustion is Fire Mage's major offensive cooldown, similar to how Frost Mage has Icy Veins and Arcane Mage has Arcane Surge. The most basic way to think about how Combustion works is that it makes every single one of your spells have a 100% crit chance, and you also gain extra bonus mastery equal to 75% of your critical strike stat. Whenever you activate Combustion, you gain 6% critical strike damage, and you give nearby allies 2% crit. So that portion of Combust comes from the Wildfire talent that we're running. But yeah, basically the most simple way to think about Combustion is it makes every one of your spells crit. The way this helps Fire Mage is because of Hot Streak. Getting 2 direct critical strikes in a row with fire spells makes your next Pyroblast instant. So normally what you would do without Combustion is you would want to chain 2 crits in a row. So double Fire Blast, because Fire Blast has a 100% crit chance. Same with Phoenix Flames. These are the 2 spells that you have that will always crit no matter what, even outside of Combustion. And that will give you an instant Pyroblast. But that Pyroblast has a chance to not crit. So Combustion will allow you to have a 100% chance crit on all of these spells, which will allow you to deal a lot of damage. Now, where I see most people using Combustion wrong is they're not getting the most value out of every damaging button that they have in their toolkit. So I'm going to show you real quick as example number 1 what people's Combustion rotation usually looks like, and from there we'll go over it and see how we can fix it and add more damage to it. So in this rotation, you can see we immediately start with Combustion. And from there, basically the rest of the entire rotation is just weaving 2 instant cast spells, which will lead you to your next crit. So these 2 spells crit, which leads us to our instant Pyro. We send in the Pyro, which lands, and Fire Blast hits at the same time, which gives us our second Pyro. We send that Pyro in. We Fire Blast back another crit to get 2 in a row. And then another one. Then we send in Phoenix Flames, and that one crits. But a big problem with this rotation is that while it is uninterruptible, so I'm not saying that you should never go for this sort of damage. Sometimes it's good to do this. However, this is definitely not the most efficient way to use it. It's not going to be the maximum amount of damage that we can do in a Combustion rotation. So let's go over a little bit why that is and how we can fix it. So the first thing we can see with the new rotation, the most efficient rotation, is that it starts with a Fireball. So we're not just instantly doing Phoenix Flames or double Fire Blast to get to our first Pyro. So we have a modifier on our Fireball here called Flame Accelerant. If you have not cast Fireball for 8 seconds, your next Fireball will deal 70% increased damage with a 20% reduced cast time, and then a 40% reduced cast time if you play 2 in this. We want to make sure that we're getting value out of that, because you can see the Fireball actually hits very hard. It's one of your hardest hitting spells, especially if you're playing Glass Cannon, which is a further modifier to Fireball. The rotation starts with Fireball, and you'll see I immediately Fire Blast with it as well. 1 Fire Blast. So you can see the Fireball hits extremely hard, 227k. We want to make sure we're getting value out of this, and you'll actually notice something here immediately that will be explained later. But you can see the Flame Accelerant proc has a shorter cooldown than Combustion. What I see most mages missing out on is trying to fit 2 Flame Accelerant procs into your Combustion. That's why you want to start. That's why you want to start the go with that. And you'll actually notice when I pop Combustion, you can use this while you're casting a spell. So you'll see I pop it. You want to pop it as late as possible into the Fireball, because that will ensure that you have the longest amount of time. There's no point to pop Combustion first, then Fireball. You only want to commit the Combustion at the very end of the Fireball. So yep, we Fireball into Combust, into Fire Blast, into Pyro, into Fire Blast, into Pyro, into Fire Blast, into Pyro. Now that we're out of instant cast Fire Blasts, we will use Phoenix Flames. So now we Phoenix Flames here. We get back to another Fire Blast charge. We press that into another Pyro, into another Fire Blast, into another Pyro. And now you'll see my Flame Accelerant proc is off cooldown. So I use my second Fireball now. So that is going to be an amazing way to generate pressure on your combust. I sort of call the end of your combust sort of like your second combust, because when you use that first Fireball and you chain all those instant casts on someone, a lot of the times you're going to force like a major defensive cooldown. And then towards the end of your combust, you have another Fireball, which you can sort of use to force bonus cooldowns on like a different target. So that's going to add a lot of burst to the end of your combust, not only just the beginning, like how most people use it. And then from here, you'll see I actually have no Fire Blast charges. Even though I do have Phoenix charges, you could either fit in a Scorch here if they're in execute range. The reason why I Scorched is because I wanted to illustrate that if this target was below 30% HP, it would be more ideal to fit in this Scorch while your combust is active, because of the increased Scorch damage from Glass Cannon along with the Searing Touch talent. Scorch deals 175% increased damage and is a guaranteed crit below 30% HP. You can think of Scorch as like an execute in a way, but if they are like this healthy, then it probably would have been best to just send this instant Pyroblast here into the Phoenix Flames. And you can see the damage on this rotation was a lot higher. The details was close to like 300k DPS, and the one before that, without the two fireballs, was around 200k, I believe. Okay, so that was sort of the fundamental basics of how combustion works and how you deal damage on Fire Mage. Now I kind of want to go into some of the more stuff that's going on in the background, because you can see here when I'm doing my rotation, I'm getting all these different modifiers, and all these different modifiers play into how you get these large damaging numbers when you're actually trying to kill someone. So a lot of them, thankfully for fire, you actually don't have to even really think too much. So I want to go over a couple of them here. So the most important out of all the modifiers is going to be Flame Cannon. And you can see that's a stacking buff on me. You can see it's stacking from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 now. And you'll see what it does. Health increased by 10%. Damage done increased by 15%, and increases the range of your fire spells by 15% as well, or by 15 yards. So if we read this talent real quick, it's a PvP talent. Every 2 seconds in combat with no enemy players or creatures closer than 15 yards, it will stack up, basically, and it stacks up to 5 times. This is really, really important that you have a lot of stacks of this before you send Combust if you're looking to get the most amount of damage. So you need to stay in combat for this. You need to stay out of range. You can see if I get close to the target, my Flame Cannon won't stack, but if I'm about 15 yards away from him, then it will stack. So this is going to be, like I said, your biggest modifier. It's a 15% damage increase, and it even allows you to be all the way over here in casting your spells. This is the range from here. So this is a very, very important modifier to keep in mind. There's not really much more to say about it. Just make sure you have high stacks, or make sure that you are in a position to get stacks as the combust rotation is going on. You can see it's ramping up here during my combustion. It will make the second half of my rotation a lot more powerful. You can see now I have a 5 stack for this incoming fireball, and that's how we hit the 300Ks. Okay, now I'm gonna more quickly go over some of the lesser modifiers. These ones, you don't have to pay attention to them as much as all the other stuff. These are like really min-max if you're looking to squeeze out an extra 1 to 2, 3% more DPS or something. Like, you already know all the other stuff. You already have it down. You have it locked in. These are now going to be the things that you can kind of really focus on min-maxing. So the first one is going to be Feel the Burn. So every time you Fire Blast, it gives you this buff here that increases your mastery. And the trick with this is that you don't want to let this buff fall. It stacks up to 3 times. So you can see every time I Fire Blast, it refreshes it, or Phoenix Flames will refresh it as well. Keep in mind, Phoenix Flames refreshes it as the Phoenix lands, not as you cast the spell. So you don't want to time it like right here and then have it, the travel time, make you lose the buff. So this is a really min-max way to keep up your mastery. If you guys don't know what the mastery is on fire, all of your fire spells leave an ignite on the target. Referring back to the combustion rotation, which also increases your mastery equal to your crit, and since you have a 100% crit chance, that's a lot more mastery. You'll see in the combustion rotation, you're gonna have a lot of bonus mastery to the point where, look at this ignite. It's actually doing a lot of damage now. It's like almost 60k damage, and it spreads. So every time you fire blast, like I said, you want to make sure you're maintaining that buff. It's very min-max. It's not the thing you want to focus on the most, but if you can keep it up, it's very good to do that. That's one thing to note. Also with this, it's this talent, or actually it's just the way mastery works, but fire blast causes ignite to spread to 3 nearby enemies. So that's going to be another thing that you can definitely min-max with your ignite, is when you combust is when you're going to have the biggest ignite on the target. You can actually do a lot of really spread pressure here. You can see, let me double dot these targets. So this is the main one, the focus is this other one. So when I combust and I do my rotation, you can see they're both getting the increased dot dam. The main target one is a lot higher, but yeah. So you'll see they're both ticking down now. So if you can find targets who are stacked and combust, you can do even more damage, like affliction lock level of damage with your combust by spreading it. Alright, so that's about all there is to really talk about when it comes to combustion. Let me know if you guys enjoyed this video. The next one I plan on doing will be for how to get the perfect arcane surge rotation off. Let me know if you guys are excited for that video. And yeah, I'll see you guys there. Peace out. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Check me out on Twitch as well, ttv/Aegis. Peace out, YouTube.